Greetings! I'm Paul Craesmeyer, and I serve the Lord as a missionary in Brazil with Word of Grace Mission. We teach the grace message and plant churches to perpetuate it. Where does Brazil fit in the global scale of grace work? North America has over 200 grace churches, Southeast Asia has over 600, and Africa has over 600 as well. Yet South America doesn't even have 60. Brazil itself only has about 22, with 4 more being planted, and another 3 transitioning from Neo-Pentecostal to Grace Doctrine. With over 200 million people, the need for the gospel of the grace of God in Brazil is huge. Now, if I were to plant grace churches in the U.S., I would target the large urban centers. San Francisco, for example, has more than 7.5 million people all living in the same metropolitan area, and there isn't a single grace ministry there. There are whole states with smaller populations that have from 10 to 20 churches, but there isn't even one church to reach the millions in Frisco, or Boston, or Philly, or Toronto in Canada, or Miami, or Atlanta. That's more than 40 million souls gathered in just 6 cities, and there isn't one grace church to reach them. There is a huge need for grace church planters in the U.S. Yet Brazil is worse off. It has around 25 cities with more than 1 million souls without a single grace church. My vision is to target these large urban centers and plant multiple missionary sending churches. Just Brazil's top 3 cities gather close to 40 million souls, and they haven't any churches preaching the gospel of grace. All you hear is works, works, works. This year, we've begun planting a church in Sorocaba, in the state of São Paulo, and we also have assembled a team of workers to join us in Joinville next year to plant churches there as well. Joinville stands within 2 hours of driving distance from 10 of the 22 Brazilian grace churches. Working in that area, we plan to train church planters while planting the Joinville church so that in the future we can send out teams of church planters to the largest cities of São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Belo Horizonte. Like our apostle, we're going for the big cities. In the next 35 years, we plan to arrive in 2050 with 35 more grace churches, starting with the most populated and most connected cities, with a view towards making good use of those connections to reach the fields beyond. For instance, São Paulo has large ethnic groups which, once reached for Christ, can carry the gospel to other countries and spread the grace message more effectively. Now, how do we plan to go about this? We'll follow Paul. We'll go to big cities, we'll use the almost there method of evangelism, and we'll multiply mentors. Big cities not only offer more souls to save, they also break down language and cultural barriers for missions, not to mention better contacts with other regions. For example, New York has 20 million souls and people from every nation of the world already speaking English. It's very similar with São Paulo. Almost there evangelism could also be called the synagogue method, which is the intentional focus on those who are closer to God, whose knowledge just needs an update and whose character and conduct is more developed. Pioneer work needs a head start, and we see that Paul planted churches quickly using this method. And by multiplying mentors, we mean that we will train people to do the same work as we do, thus multiplying the teams of church planters. Paul did it, and his trainees spread all over planting churches just like he did. I ask you to pray for us. Please pray as we lead a team of workers and train them each to form their own teams of church planters. Please pray as we plant the Sorocaba and Joinville churches in the next 2 years or so and then move on to São Paulo. Our greatest desire is to see the grace message grow in Brazil and abroad. Should the Lord lay on your heart to be a part of this, We'd like you to be aware of a few different ways to do it. You can take part as a worker here, as there is a vision and development for the U.S. as a grace mission field. You can be a part as a worker in Brazil, as the current crisis opens up many opportunities. You can be a part financially. It's as easy as designating a check and sending it monthly to the mission address. And you can take part in prayer by signing up for our email updates. Please pray for us and pray that the grace message will grow.